Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Detroit Lions at the Kansas City Chiefs. Played November 1st, 2015. Their Week 8 matchup played across the pond in London, England. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis for this game. And this one was a massacre. The Lions actually got on the board first just about 6 minutes into the game when Matt Prater hit a 35-yard field goal to make it 3-0 Detroit over Kansas City. But then about 5 minutes later, the Chiefs got on the board when D'Anthony Thomas ran it in, a 10-yard touchdown. Santos hit the extra point, and it was 7-3 Chiefs over the Lions. So that was it for the first quarter. Then in the second quarter, with about 12 minutes left before halftime, Alex Smith, after a 49-yard run in this drive, he ends up getting a 12-yard touchdown run. Santos hits the extra point, and it was 14-3 Chiefs over the Lions. Then with about 8.5 minutes left still before halftime, Cairo Santos hit a 33-yard field goal, and it was now 17-3 KC over Detroit. Then with about 3.5 left, still in the second quarter, Chicandrick West gets it in the end zone, an 8-yard touchdown run. Santos adds the extra point, and it was 24-3, and that would be the score going into the locker rooms at halftime as the Chiefs were up by 3 touchdowns. So then in the third quarter, with about 9 minutes still left in the third, Alex Smith threw a touchdown to Travis Kelce, a 2-yard touchdown pass. Santos added the extra point, and it was now 31-3 as Kansas City continued to roll all over the Lions. So that was it for the first 3 quarters. Then in the fourth, with 10 minutes still left in the game, Alex Smith hits Jeremy Maclin for a 17-yard touchdown pass. Santos adds the extra point, and it was 38 straight points for the Chiefs after being down 3-0 early on in the game. The Lions would finally get back on the scoreboard with a little over 7 minutes still left to play as Stafford got him into the end zone for the first time in the game. So Lance Moore caught a 21-yard touchdown. Prater added the extra point, and it was 38-10. Then, just moments later, just 41 seconds later, Spencer Ware gets a 4-yard touchdown run for the Chiefs, and it was 45-10 after Santos added the extra point. And that would be the final score as the Chiefs just totally dominate the Lions over in London. 2 interceptions for Stafford in the game. And now with the win, the Chiefs are 3-5. And they're actually, they have a chance to potentially, make some ground up in the West and in the AFC. The Lions are now 1-7. So the Lions at 1-7 just continue to be horrible. They just can't get anything done. The Chiefs were just all over Stafford. They had the pass rush really getting into the backfield, putting the pressure on. They had 6 sacks in this game. Let's actually go over the numbers. Smith, he had 3 touchdowns in this game, Alex Smith, but only 145 passing yards. They weren't really doing it through the air. It was all about the ground game. As Alex Smith rushed for 78 yards. He was looking like Superman or something, as if he was all of a sudden Cam Newton. He was 18 for 26, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions for Alex Smith. He had 5 carries for 78 yards and a rushing touchdown to give him 3 total touchdowns. He also had that 49-yard run that set up that 12-yard touchdown run. And that's the longest run of Alex Smith's career. Stafford, on the other hand, he was 22 for 36, 217 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Of course, the Chiefs were able to turn those turnovers into points. And on the ground, Chicandrick West, 20 carries for 97 yards and a rushing touchdown. He also had 4 receptions for 25 yards to give him 123 total yards on the game. And then Spencer Ware, he had a touchdown rushing as well, just 2 carries for 12 yards. And D'Anthony Thomas had 1 carry for 10 yards and a rushing touchdown as 4 Chiefs ran the ball into the end zone. And Thomas actually had 3 receptions, also for 22 yards. And then for the receivers, Travis Kelce, the tight end, had 6 receptions for 49 yards and a receiving touchdown. And Jeremy Maclin, 3 receptions for 35 yards and a touchdown as well. And for the Lions, on the ground, Joique Bell, 7 carries for 56 yards. And through the air, Megatron, Calvin Johnson, 5 receptions for 85 yards. Golden Tate, 6 receptions for 59 yards. And Theo Riddick had 6 receptions for 30 yards. He also had 5 carries for 17 yards to give him 47 total yards in the game. And Lance Moore had 3 receptions for 29 yards and a touchdown. And for the kickers, Prater was 1 for 1 on the field goals and 1 for 1 on the extra points. Cairo Santos, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 6 for 6 on the extra points. We look at the defense, and the Chiefs were really getting after Stafford. Johnson had a sack. Parker had 2 sacks. Dontari Poe had a sack. Justin Houston had 1.5 sacks. And Tamba Hali had a half sack as well. And Smith and Houston each had interceptions. So 1.5 sacks and an interception for Justin Houston in this game. Ziggy Ansah had a sack for the Lions, as did Taylor and Jones. So 3 sacks for Detroit. Then we look at the first downs, 24 for KC, 16 for Detroit. On third downs, Kansas City 8 for 13, 61% conversion rate. And that is definitely a high conversion rate on third down. 2 for 12 for Detroit, just 16%. They went for it twice on fourth down, converted 1 for 50% on fourth. Total net yards, 340 for the Chiefs, 276 for the Lions. Net rushing, 206 for Kansas City, just 81 net rushing yards for the Lions. In the air, 134 net passing yards for Kansas City. Smith was sacked 3 times for a total of 15 yards lost. And for Detroit, 195 net passing yards, as Stafford was sacked 6 times for a total of 32 yards lost. We look at the penalties, 8 penalties for 81 penalty yards against Detroit, 3 penalties for 20 yards against Kansas City. And we look at the red zone, and the Chiefs just dominating in the red zone, 6 for 7 in the red zone, 85%. In the Lions, 0 for 1, 0% in the red zone. Time of possession, 34 minutes and 14 seconds for Kansas City, 25 minutes, 46 seconds for Detroit. The Chiefs did it just with that smash mouth, football, the running game, the defense, and they got it done on third down. They got it done in the red zone as they kept pounding the ball into the end zone. So they had 6 red zone touchdowns, 4 on the ground, 2 through the air. And the Lions only got to the red zone once, and they weren't able to get a touchdown on that red zone trip, as they only got into the end zone once in this entire game. As they just were getting totally dominated from the onset. I mean, early on, it was competitive. They scored the first points 3-0, and it was just 7-3 after the first. But Kansas City would end up scoring 38 straight points before the Lions would score again in the fourth quarter, when the game was well out of hand at that point. The Chiefs, they had the big lead going into halftime as they were up 24-3. And it really was over at that point. Detroit, maybe if they came out and got something going in the second half, but they just continue to struggle as they're just tanking the season. They fired all their offensive coaches. They really need to fire their head coach. I mean, they got too much talent to be 1-7. The Chiefs got a lot of talent too, but they got injuries. Of course, Maclin was back, and he did get a touchdown. Of course, at that point, they were already... the game was already well in hand. They were already way ahead. And it was really that running game. And Alex Smith getting it done on the ground as he uses his arm and his legs, really more his legs. But the Kansas City Chiefs getting some good, run blocking. And it didn't seem to matter who was running the ball, as everybody was getting in the end zone. But of course, Jacander Quest having a big game. And he protected the ball as well, as did Smith, as the Chiefs protected the ball. No turnovers for Kansas City. They played very disciplined overseas. It's not easy to do. It's almost like a holiday or a vacation but they actually showed up there on Friday. They got there late. And only 3 penalties in the game. Like I said, they were disciplined. The Lions were playing sloppy. The 2 turnovers, 8 penalties, and they couldn't convert on third downs. They allowed 6 sacks, just poor, pass blocking. Not really good on the run block either. They weren't really able to get much of anything going. And even Joique Bell, he had 56 yards, but 32 of those came on one play. So if you take away those 32 yards, then that just leaves him with 24 off of 6 carries. Still not bad, but I mean, they didn't really run the ball. If you're not committed to the run, then you're going to have struggles if you don't have a balanced attack. And the Chiefs were more than balanced. It was actually, teetering on the side of the run game, which is pretty rare these days, as most teams are all about passing. It's a passing league. The Chiefs showing that they could get it done on the ground. Of course, it's against the 1-7 Lions, as the Lions continue to lose in 2015. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.